To some serious stuff. Josh Hamilton of the Texas Rangers is an all-star slugger having a career year and is leading a normally pathetic Texas franchise into the playoffs, all of which is why he's likely to win this year's American League Most Valuable Player Award. Hamilton has come a long way from when we first profiled him 4 years ago. Back then, we speculated that for reasons that have nothing to do with baseball, he would probably never even make it to the major leagues. Boy, were we wrong. Our John Frankel has more on why the promising career of Josh Hamilton is only now being fulfilled.
Uh-oh, he's done it again!
One of your teammates said that you may be the best baseball player to ever walk the planet.
It's pretty cool, huh?
How does that happen? How you doing it?
By not trying to do it.
You can see why they've always called him the natural. Why, even after he spent years away from the game destroying his body, he could wind up rewriting the history of a franchise that's been failing for 50 years. But what you can't see is what happens after the game, when Superman takes off his uniform and becomes the most mortal of men, not allowed to carry so much as a credit card or more than a few dollars in cash for fear of the damage he might do.
Still, my wife follows me to the gas station. Put the card in and give it back to her.
Does it bother you that you have to do those things?
Yeah, it used to. It really did. And I had to get past that because that gets me in trouble.
We've been following Josh Hamilton's wild ride since 2006, when he was just starting his minor league career, or restarting it to be precise. His first try had ended with one of the great crash and burns in sports history. A surefire superstar turned obsessed drug addict. When you were in the worst of the worst, it just took over.
Consumed me. Thought about it, sleeping, waking up, everything I thought about. I was basically killing myself inside.
You know what the everyday Joe will say? Man, you got the world in front of you. You can play professional baseball and you can't stop yourself?
You can't stop yourself. It's crazy how powerful it is over you physically and mentally.
Before Hamilton got hooked, he'd almost been too perfect. The #1 pick in the 1999 draft, Hamilton took his $4 million bonus and used it to help pay off his parents' debt. And when he joined the Devil Rays minor league system, he actually brought his parents with him. In the car, on the road, everywhere.
It was just like, I hadn't left home really. My mom would cook, eat dinner, somebody would wash my clothes.
Then came the day in 2001 when the Hamilton family was blindsided, literally. A dump truck ran a red light and struck their car, leaving Josh and his parents injured, and the family broken up for the first time. His parents back home in Raleigh, Josh recovering in Florida.
For the first time, I was without my parents. For the first time, I was without baseball.
So the things you loved most, your parents and baseball?
Both taken away at the same time.
With nothing but time on his hands, Hamilton started hanging out all day at a local tattoo parlor, getting 2, sometimes 3 tattoos a day, and then partying with the parlor's owners at night. He was 20 when he had his first beer and his first line of cocaine, on the same night. Hamilton was hooked. How often were you doing drugs?
I was a guy that go on binges. I go 3 or 4 days a week, a day and a half sleeping.
And you were a real junkie. Hamilton says he spent almost $500,000 on tattoos, drugs, and alcohol. He tried to stop himself, but couldn't, and the next year became a roller coaster ride of binges, cleanups, and then relapses. He was suspended by Major League Baseball for the 2004 and 2005 seasons. Did you ever think to yourself, I'm throwing away everything I've ever worked for?
In some ways, that makes it adds fuel to the fire because I'm doing this to myself. So when I think about all these bad things that are happening because of this, I want to go use more.
Hamilton temporarily sobered up when he got married and had a daughter. But after yet another relapse, his wife Katie kicked him out of the house.
There was a point in time where I didn't even know if Josh was going to survive.
Because he was going to take his own life?
Just because of how involved he ended up getting with drugs.
What was rock bottom for you?
Rock bottom was being out in the country with 6 people in a trailer, no electricity, no plumbing, with a dope man having my truck, letting him use it so he'd give me some more.
You're just hanging out in a trailer.
Not knowing if these people were going to try to kill me or...
Didn't know these people.
Didn't know them.
Things changed in October of 2005 when Hamilton says he experienced a powerful religious conversion. Almost immediately, he began attending AA meetings and trying to reconcile with Katie. During a visit home, Josh held his newborn, Sierra, and he broke down crying.
That was what kind of flipped the page, and it made me realize that it wasn't worth it, and that it wasn't just about me anymore.
Hamilton moved back in with his family, and now all that was missing was baseball.
I read an article in the St. Pete Times that he felt like he was being neglected. He felt like he wanted to be back on a field, and he wanted somebody to talk to.
For Roy Silver, Hamilton's story struck a chord. Silver, who runs a youth baseball academy, had himself battled drug addiction when he was playing baseball in college. So he invited Hamilton to live and train at his camp, with one catch. Hamilton had to scrub the bathrooms, take out the trash, mow the lawn. And if the chores weren't completed, then Hamilton didn't get to play. Would you call it the need to be humiliated or humbled?
Both. He humiliated himself, and he knows that. So now he's at ground level. He's got to do this or else. And to me, that's a perfect time to learn in life.
Seeing how well Hamilton was doing in Silver's program, Major League Baseball reinstated him in June of 2006. And Hamilton played his first minor league game in 4 years. His family followed the bus on road trips that summer, sometimes driving 10 hours each way. Are you afraid if he falls off the wagon?
I don't live in fear of it happening, but we live cautiously.
How do you do that?
We drive one car. We pick him up from practice. He doesn't, carry around large amounts of money. If Josh is in the car by himself, he can get sidetracked, and it could be easy for him to drive to a bar instead of driving home. And we just eliminate that risk.
Today, 4 years later, Hamilton is still sober. But he's no longer a minor leaguer riding the bus with his family.
He's gonna go! He is amazing!
Now with the Texas Rangers, he is perhaps the best all-around player in the American League, achieving a comeback few ever thought possible. When we first met back in 2006, as we closed out the segment, Brian asked me about your future.
What kind of a baseball future does he have?
I talked to several general managers in baseball. One said, the ship has sailed. Other people say, he's got a slim chance. Those words might have stung back then. But was there a part of you that believed those guys?
I knew I could still play the game. So I'm glad I proved a lot of people wrong.
Yet, one thing hasn't changed since we met Hamilton in 2006. Every day is still filled with temptation. For example, spring training 2009. Just 6 months after he became one of the top sports stories of the year for dominating the All-Star Home Run Derby, Josh Hamilton almost threw it all away again. Baseball had become his top priority, and that, he says, was the problem.
I stopped praying, I stopped doing my Bible study, and I thought I could have one drink. And that one drink turned into 20 drinks, like it always does.
Pictures of that night turned up on the sports blog, Deadspin. When the pictures came out.
And I didn't even remember any of that. It was crazy, man. I remember going to this bar, and I remember talking to the manager, and the next thing I know, 2 guys and 3 girls walk in the door, and that's the only people in the place. And so he starts feeding me drinks, and then somewhere in there, all that stuff happened.
You think he set you up? You think he called some friends and said, hey, come on down here, Josh Hamilton, Major League Baseball player, and then took the pictures himself?
Yeah.
You do?
Honestly.
Hamilton says that when he realized later what he'd done, he was devastated.
I broke down. I started just bawling and called my wife and just felt absolutely broken.
Was he distraught because he'd let you down, the team down, himself down, or was he scared that he'd thrown it all away again?
All of the above. I mean, like, the whole world had kind of looked to him as someone that had a very strong faith and got back into baseball and had done all these good things, and in that moment he felt like a complete failure.
Hamilton's wife and his team say that he's forgiven, but for Hamilton, that night is a reminder of the battle he wages every single day.
You have to be prepared. You have to stay on your toes. What are you going to do with it once it pops in your head? And for me, it's memorizing Scripture.
And it does get easier.
Absolutely. But it doesn't completely go away.
Hamilton has help keeping his demons at bay. Major League Baseball tests him for drugs 3 times a week, and Hamilton, once again a multimillionaire, isn't allowed to carry a credit card or more than small change. And then there's this man, Johnny Nairn, hired by the Rangers to chaperone Hamilton, to do essentially what Katie used to do: travel with him, eat with him, pray with him. Most of all, keep him out of trouble. Is Johnny a safeguard, or is he a necessity?
I wouldn't say he's a necessity. If Josh decides he wants to do something that he's not supposed to do, it doesn't really matter if Johnny's there. But it's just one more piece of the puzzle that gives Josh the best chance at having success in his sobriety.
The Bible tells the story of the prodigal son, the restless young man who threw away his life, then repented and humbly returned to his roots. Josh Hamilton reads the Bible every day now, a true believer in second chances.
My identity is wrapped up in living for the Lord and being a good husband and father.
What's the future hold for you? Would you like to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long shot. You know, everything would have to go perfect. Chances of that happening? Probably not. But if I can leave a mark on the game, that would be a big accomplishment. God, that was a good ending right there, man. Did you hear that?
One quick footnote. Josh Hamilton has been sidelined since September 4th, when he badly bruised 3 of his ribs banging into a wall in center field. Last week, he received 2 cortisone injections, but they failed to provide the kind of pain relief that he or the club had expected. Just what the next step in his recovery might be is still unclear. But what is clear is the Texas Rangers' postseason hopes won't be worth much if Hamilton can't play. Finally,